Holy cow, he did it again! What's up, Brooklanders? This is my review of Oppenheimer, directed by Christopher Nolan. I'm not going to commit to the sunglasses bit. I did that for Barbie. Christopher Nolan is one of the best directors of our time. The dude does not miss, and just straight off the bat, I'm not even going to waste your time. This film freaking rules. It's easily one of the best films of the year, but that's from my perspective. I think if you're into different genres and certain things like that, if you're not down to sit down for 3 hours, it's a long film, 3 hours, and just have people talk, maybe you wouldn't think this is as good as I did, as it really is. But regardless of what you think, regardless of what you're into, there's no denying the absolute talent and skill on display. From the production side to the acting, the whole entire film is just a treasure trove of high quality filmmaking. Let's talk about the man of the hour, Christopher Nolan himself. The dude is on top of his game. The dude has not missed a beat. As a writer, as a director, it's phenomenal here. Like I said, the film is very heavy dialogue based, but it's still entertaining, and I love how he finds ways to make simple dialogue conversations really interesting through small things happening in the background, certain in-depth looks into what the person's thinking. It's phenomenal stuff. Even a slight change of perspective, which you start to really grasp as the film goes on. It just really enhances the storytelling. It is top-notch stuff. I cannot understate how phenomenal this guy is. As good as some of those dialogue heavy sections are, when things get heavy, it is insane, man. Like the actual build-ups to the nuke itself, which I think the build-up to the test going off, I think the build-up to that is better than the actual bomb going off itself. Not that the bomb going off is bad, but just the tension and the build-up to it is insane, man. Like, again, it takes a very special kind of filmmaker to do something like this. And it's a movie like this, I watch this and I'm like, only he could do it like this. Only he could make it as epic and visceral and just like, it's scary, but it's also like biggest bomb I've seen this year since The Flash. It's terrific. Let's talk about the actors though, because they're all phenomenal. Cillian Murphy, again, top of his game. This is my favorite performance of his I've seen. I've seen him here and there in Nolan projects, in other things like that. The dude is so phenomenal in this film. I've actually known a decent amount about Robert Oppenheimer going into this movie because I think he is a very fascinating person, and the way that he sells hope and excitement, but then also like that dread and that sadness and that emptiness and that guilt, it's phenomenal to watch this guy go through that whole evolution in the movie. It's what I went to this movie to see, and I got it flying colors. But the rest of the cast is just crazy. I don't even know who to focus on. More celebrities pop up in this than that freaking Gal Gadot Imagine video. It's absolutely insane. Standouts include Robert Downey Jr., of course, and as we learn more about his character, what his motivations are throughout the film, it leads to some phenomenal acting by the man himself. We all knew he could act. He's amazing as Iron Man, but seeing him in a project like this, I'm so happy that people are going to be able to see him in a big budget role where he can just, you know, nothing fancy, just throw him in a room, just let him act his ass off, you know. Emily Blunt is really good, especially as the movie goes on, kind of like Robert Downey Jr. Matt Damon is very consistent throughout the movie. I loved him in this. And again, just the actors that pop up here in the air. Gary Oldman pops up for like 5 minutes and he crushes it. I could shout out like literally every other actor in this movie, but I think one guy I need to shout out that might not get enough attention, people talking about this movie, Jason Clarke. This dude, he'd always pop up here and there. I always was like, oh, there's Jason Clarke again, like in old movies in the past like few years. But in this movie, dude crushes it. Such an intense role, and I knew he could act like this because I've seen him do it before. But this is, again, a phenomenal performance by him. Jason Clarke, give him more opportunities. This film also has a lot of young bucks popping up here and there, like freaking, I don't know, like Christopher Nolan's running a adoption clinic or something like that from ex-Nickelodeon and Disney stars. I know it's only Josh Peck, but it feels like that sometimes. Someone actually, when Josh Peck showed up on screen, someone in the theater laughed. I felt like bad for Josh Peck, but it was kind of funny. Roderick Rules, he's here too. You're gonna be surprised at the actors that show up here. You're gonna be like, I didn't know they were in this. but they are, and they're probably good. In fact, I think that's one thing I liked about this movie too. It's called Oppenheimer. It's about Oppenheimer, but it highlights a lot of people who were involved in this creation too, who might not get as much credit as Oppenheimer, because again, the dude's not in there with like wrenches building the thing himself. He has a whole team around him, and I'm glad that this movie highlighted those people. This is a very long movie though, 3 hours. It's long, it feels long, it's entertaining through, but it's long. It's one of those things where I'm like, I'd understand if you didn't want to watch it again necessarily right away just because of how long it is, but it's a story you have to see through at least once because it's a very oh man, it's great. One thing I also really liked about this movie is how the movie didn't stop at the Trinity test. Once the bombs work, and we know they work, and we use them, America, I say we, once those things go off, it follows the aftermath of all the scientists, of Oppenheimer himself, and that was one of the best parts of the movie for me. It kind of spirals into this drama about lawyers, and there's a prosecution, and the defendant, will the defendant please take the stand? It kind of spirals into that. It's just as entertaining. I loved all of that. I loved how they dealt with, you know, what life was like for not only the people that worked on this project, but the world after that. It takes a older story and makes it practical to today, something where I left the theater and I was like, oh man, damn, you kind of screwed us over, Oppenheimer. But like, he didn't. It's a complicated story because of what the guy has to go through, and he didn't really have a choice. If he didn't do it, either some other American was gonna do it or people overseas were gonna do it. It's phenomenal stuff. As an American myself too, it makes you feel proud, and you're like, hell yeah, America, baby, we get shit done. But then you're like, oh man, America sucks. Ludwig Göransson, the music in this, maybe the best part. The guy's music is so good. I've been a fan of this guy for a long time. Dude absolutely crushes it. It's so epic, it's so sad, and it's quiet when it has to. I absolutely loved this. This is something that I'm gonna get the second it comes out on the vinyl. When you think of these big epic Christopher Nolan films, sometimes you think of just that being Hans Zimmer, but with this film, with Tenet, this dude is proving he can do it just as good. This dude is so talented. Love this guy's work to death. Oppenheimer is a awesome, well-crafted, well-acted historical drama that makes you think about everyone on both sides, and I think that that's what you really want in a movie like this. It gives you insight into historical figures, and very much how people say we have to learn from history. It takes an old story and makes it still relevant to today's world we live in. I don't really have any complaints with the movie, except maybe it can be a little too long. And I saw it in, again, if I'm nitpicking, if I had to nitpick, I watched it in IMAX, and sometimes jumping back and forth between those like aspect ratios, it distracted me a little bit at first. I understand why they can't do that the whole entire time, but again, that is if this was any other movie, I wouldn't even mention it. I just have to say something, you know. Expect a lot of Oscar nominations later in the year for a bunch of the actors. Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., them in particular. Emily Blunt, give her one too. Matt Damon, sure. Yeah, give everyone the awards. And ba-bam, there it is on the tier list. Wow, check it out. You didn't see that coming, did you? I did the Barbie double feature. Here it is. Here's my review. Check that out too. Bye.